And now, from your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics on KTAB.
We control what the property tax rate is. And so my focus was on, well, let's do our part. We can only control a little sliver, but let's do what we can to minimize that tax burden.
Good Sunday morning. It's budget time for the City of Abilene, and KTAB's Victor Sotelo goes one-on-one with Councilman Blaise Regan to pull back the curtain on the city's efforts to pay the bills and save taxpayer money. Well, thank you so much for being here for Big Country Politics. I'm your host, Tobin Smith. Well, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz has introduced a bill to expand child care facilities at Dyess Air Force Base. Now, according to a news release, the Dyess CDC Addition Design Authorization Act will authorize the U.S. Secretary of the Air Force to expand child care access for Dyess military families with a critical CDC facility addition. The design would integrate with existing infrastructure, security, and safety systems, and would also preserve day-to-day operations during the construction process. The additional child care would provide more support for military families' quality of life without requiring new appropriations and funding. Well, meanwhile, a lack of federal funding is forcing adult education programs and classes throughout West Central Texas to close. This includes Abilene ISD's adult education program at the former Jefferson Middle School on South 14th. Director of Adult Education Jeffrey Howell says this unexpected event occurred due to the government holding on funds previously allocated to adult education programs nationwide. Now, they were faced with a choice to either cut 80% of the program or shut down. So since they are unable to operate with only 20% of the budget, closing was their only option. AISD has been offering the adult education program since 1960, with thousands of students using the adult education program to obtain their GED, as an English as a second language class, and even career and counseling services. Well, this week, Texas lawmakers are once again discussing THC legislation after Governor Greg Abbott vetoed a bill earlier this summer that would have banned all consumable hemp products containing this psychoactive substance. Now, the governor told lawmakers that he wants regulation, but Republican senators are saying that's not possible. KTAB's Austin correspondent Dylan McKim explains.
It's a bit of deja vu.
Feels a little like Groundhog Day.
A new bill with the same effect, banning consumable hemp products containing THC, which can get someone high. The governor called for regulation on hemp products containing less than 3 milligrams of THC, but some Republican senators are pushing back.
It is not a regulatable situation. There is no way to stay ahead of the chemist.
The legislation is supported by many law enforcement leaders and concerned parents who say regulation is impossible, costly, and ineffective.
What's it going to cost and how effective is it? What are you getting for the money spent?
It would take years and years and millions of dollars.
Costs that are involved.
Early Wiley is the DA of Kaufman County. She says products in her county are testing for high concentrations of THC, and the process of testing is slowing down prosecution.
It's time for us to just go across the board with the ban, because I don't think the regulation works.
If the problem is funding, why not slap an excise tax on the products?
Zachary Crow is a Houston attorney representing people in the industry who are fighting back against the narrative that regulation is too expensive. They say they welcome any regulation to ease concerns of safety risk, and he says he's willing to take legal action if they can't get the outcome they want.
But all I'm hearing in there from Republicans is that, no, you don't get the right to make up your own mind. We do. And with every fiber in my being, I will fight that until the day I die.
In Austin, I'm Dylan McKim.
Thank you, Dylan. The bill does have a more narrowed focus on what would be banned. SB 5 specifically saying consumable products that you can buy in the grocery store, such as hemp seeds and hemp protein, would still be legal. Well, speaking of, here locally, some businesses have received a letter issued by the Abilene Police questioning some of their products that they have on the shelves. The letter came to certain businesses around town who sell CBD and hemp-based products and informed that business that they were now under investigation for the possible sale of drug paraphernalia and even illegal narcotics within the city limits. Now, that letter warning businesses that if they don't comply, they could face a hefty fine. Local business House of Healing was the recipient of one of these letters, and owner Brittany Mansky talked to us about why she thinks they were targeted.
I think it's more of the same thing of the misunderstood industry, and what it is and what is considered legal versus illegal. We know what we have, and we know that we comply with all of the federal and state laws, that we have in the state of Texas.
Now, the letter from APD stipulates that businesses inside the city limits that present, display, or offer for sale paraphernalia, items, or equipment commonly used for the ingestion, inhalation, preparation, or injection of illegal substances are now prohibited from any further sale. Well, as severe weather becomes more frequent, questions about emergency warnings are growing statewide, including right here in Abilene. One of the most common questions, will the city ever get storm sirens again? The City of Abilene, or the City Council rather, has recently reopened that discussion during an ongoing budget hearing. The last time the city reviewed the idea, the estimated cost to install the siren system was around $2.2 million, and that cost would fall entirely on local taxpayers. To this day, no state or federal grants have been available to offset the expense. However, city officials say that they're still monitoring for grant opportunities and that they hope recent storms might open the door to new funding sources. Now, for now, Abilene relies on a code red emergency alert system, which sends warnings directly to mobile phones. And even if you're not signed up, the system can still deliver location-based alerts to phones in the affected areas. Well, when we come back here on Big Country Politics, we go more in depth on the City of Abilene's budget meeting. Councilmember Blaise Regan weighs in next. We're back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
All right, welcome back to Big Country Politics. Today we have City Councilman Blaise Regan. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, a couple of things that I want to start off with. Budget hearings. You guys just got done with those long process. Explain really what that is about.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, very sexy. I'm surprised more people aren't involved in it. When you're talking budgets, everyone likes to talk it. But yeah, so we just had our week of budget meetings. We started on Monday, Tuesday. We ended a little early on Tuesday. We had budgeted 3 days, and then we had the regular city council meeting today, Thursday. And so we went through the process, and this is the week where we get to really get input from the citizens. The staff proposes a budget, which includes the property tax rate, what should be funded, what projects should we do over the next year. And they present that to us, and we as a council, it's our budget. So we get to modify it, we get to change things, delete things, go, no, we don't want to do that. We want to change the tax rate. By the end of it, it's our budget. We're responsible. Staff is the one that puts it together, but ultimately it's council that decides what we're keeping in, what we're changing, and what we're taking out. And so we had a really good discussion on Monday. And it was one of those days that kind of reaffirms my faith in democracy and government, because I think a lot of good things happen through discussion and kind of the debate and give and take. And it was a very passionate discussion on Monday. We talked about the programs, we talked about the projects. I talked early on. I told the council and the public, my position is, I've been hearing a lot of pain from a lot of small business owners and a lot of residences on the increased appraisal values and the taxes that they're paying. Now, every year, everyone complains about property taxes, and there's nothing new about that. But this year, over the last, I would say, year and a half, it's really been ratcheted up. And it's not just, oh, man, that hurt. This is, and just griping about it, this is the increased valuations have really been a kind of a make or break for a lot of businesses. There's one I was talking to, they went from $3,000 in taxes last year to $19,000 this year. That's a huge jump in 1 year for a business. You can't budget for that amount. And so that's a big hit. We wanted to address that.
Well, you mentioned that during the budget hearings. Like you said, it's very sexy. I was watching it. But that's one thing you mentioned. You're hearing from your constituents. You're hearing from business owners as they were talking about a part of the budget. There was this $1 million somewhere and you said, hey, can't we just, rather than build I think they're want to build 4 bathrooms at city parks. And you were like, okay, that really doesn't have to be built right now. Can't we use that money to give relief to some taxpayers? Because what are you hearing from your constituents in regards to that?
Yeah, in regards to the taxes,
the tax relief.
Yeah. I mean, it's necessary. And you see it in the legislature as well. The Texas legislature trying to give back to homeowners of, okay, we took too much from you. Let's give some of that back in some tax relief. And I think it's important for residents and business owners to understand that the county appraisal is the one that sets the valuations. The city has no input in how much your house or business building is appraised for. Our little niche or our slice of that is we control what the property tax rate is. And so my focus was on, well, let's do our part. We can only control a little sliver, but let's do what we can to minimize that tax burden. And so the initial proposal was raising the tax rate a little bit under the proposed budget. About mid-morning, I think there was a little discussion about, well, maybe we can keep the tax rate flat. My position throughout the budget meetings was, no, we need a tax rate reduction. We need to give some relief where we can. We've got a lot of development happening, all these huge businesses from Lancium to Abbey Windows to Great Lakes Cheese that are now kind of up and running. And these are huge developments. We added $480 million worth of new property value in our area. And so
that's unusual, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that's massive. That's $500 million worth of property value that have been added to the tax rolls. And so that revenue that we're getting from that, my intent and goal and desire is to have that offset what the residents are paying. We're wanting these big businesses to come in. They're paying a lot in taxes, whether it's sales tax, some millions a month in sales tax. And I want to use that. We're getting increased revenue from them. I want to offset that by decreasing the total overall property tax rate to give some relief to the small business owners and the residents. And that's kind of how we do it while still funding. We put an extra roughly $3 million towards the street maintenance fund to bump it up to around $15 million to really get continue getting the roads better. Mm-hmm. And we've still got to fund our regular projects. We've got to staff our police department. We added 7 new police officers. We've got to staff the new rec centers. And so there's things that the new library, there's things we have to do that we have to fund. And so it comes down to balancing it. But I think we struck that, a good spot. I was very happy that we got the tax rate reduction. And if residents take one thing away from this, it's we were able to get that tax rate reduction because in large part of all those large businesses that over the last 2, 3, 4 years we've been working on bringing in, and we're just now seeing that. I don't want to set the council up for some failure next year, but I really think next year is going to be a great year because a lot of these projects are just coming online this year. The tax revenue really starts late this year, early next year. And I think next year we're going to see huge amount of growth both in sales tax and property tax, that the budget next year is going to be great, that I really think council is going to be in a good position to give a good tax rate reduction again. So that's my hope if things trend the way they are. And so I'm very excited. I wanted to be proactive this time and really get that rate reduction in now, lock it in so that we're set for next year too.
So much more to talk about in that aspect of things. We're going to move on, but I recommend that everybody go watch the city council budget hearings because it is interesting and it does give you some where we're going for next year. But when we come back on Big Country Politics, I want to talk about the BYOB, bring your own beer establishments that are operating here because there's a big maybe not controversy, but there's some things that need to be ironed out there. And we'll talk about that with Councilman Blaise Regan when we come back on Big Country Politics.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
All right, welcome back to Big Country Politics. We are continuing our conversation with Councilman Blaise Regan. We talked about the budget hearings in our last segment. Now I want to talk about the other hot button issue is the BYOB establishments, bring your own beer establishments operating here in Abilene. And it's because of the Hookah Lounge right across the street from City Hall. There's been a couple of shootings there. There's been a homicide, and that's what started this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is really the police department coming to the council and saying, hey, we need more teeth to enforce or to safeguard the public and people attending these kind of functions, regardless of whatever the type of establishment is, but that have this BYOB option at their business. And so the staff, Stanley Smith, the city attorney, the police department have all been kind of working in on this, and they proposed an ordinance to regulate BYOBs throughout the city.
Kind of a blanket over all of these establishments.
Exactly right. And so they proposed that to us at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, roughly. And council had a lot of pushback on that. It was a very wide net. It was a very burdensome, and it felt like we were penalizing the entire city.
Everybody.
Just for one potential mismanagement or bad act or bad seed. And so we directed staff to come back this past meeting, and we discussed it again. We're still exploring options because we don't know how many BYOB businesses are out there. Right now, it's not. You don't have to report it. You don't have to regulate it. It's not regulated by TABC.
Because they're operating without incident.
Right. And so, this has never come on our radar because most businesses are doing a very good job about regulating themselves, making sure it's safe. And so right now, the council feels just through discussion that that's too broad, that's too heavy-handed. And so what was proposed by the chief today was look at the 2 to 7, 2 a.m. to 7 a.m., and that's when a lot of the problems are happening.
That's what the chief said the calls for service were at that particular place after 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. And so his hope or wish is that we at least regulate that time period. That's when most of the calls are happening. And so that allows us some flexibility of maybe we don't need to do any permit for BYOB at all. We just focus on the 2 to 7 a.m., minimize the potential danger and shootings then by saying, hey, you can't operate after 2 a.m., Hopefully that eliminates the problem. They're going to come back to it next week with some revisions, and we'll discuss it as well. We've had a ton of feedback from this, from wedding venues to the expo center to private businesses, really any venue or business that has a BYOB policy. I believe a gentleman from the Knights of Columbus spoke, so it's a wide-ranging variety of businesses that are really affected by this. And so this is something that council is really trying to do our due diligence, make sure we get it right the first time so that we don't screw it up and cost businesses money and time and grief.
And that's what I'm hearing from the council is that y'all want to be very careful, take your time. And the way I understand it, the way staff will bring it back to city council is they'll bring it back with the 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. You can't operate in those hours. Mm-hmm. And maybe even a trigger there that would say, hey, if you do have an incident, then these other regulations come and you have to follow those, including getting a permit.
Yeah. So initially the proposal was every BYOB has to get a permit, and then you get a strike policy. If you have 2 or 3 incidences, you could lose your permit to have a BYOB establishment. Well, the discussion has shifted that to now there's no permit. Everyone's fine unless you have 1 or 2 instances where there's violence or something along those lines, and then that may trigger where you have to go get your permit, and then you're regulated with security guard and wanding or a metal detector.
All the other stuff.
Yeah. So we're trying to make it easy on all the good actors, and if a bad seed does pop up, okay, that triggers the requirement for a permit, which has some more security requirements.
More to come on that. And before we leave, because we're running out of time, I want to get to your Instagram or your Facebook thing. What's it called?
Abilene, It's Getting Better.
Tell us the idea behind that.
Yeah, so I started this back in 2020 during the pandemic. I was just seeing a lot of negativity on social media, and I went, man, we have the most powerful tool in our hand. Let me do something. I can only contribute a little bit, but let me do something in my own way. And so once a day I would post something good happening in Abilene. And it could be newly paved road. It could be a new business. It could be an existing business, but it looks cool. I was also, if you Google Abilene years ago, if you would Google Abilene images, the images weren't great. And I really thought, man, there's a void of.
We've got good photography on there.
Yeah.
Are you doing that?
Most of it. I have an assistant that helps me too. But, I was just seeing Abilene wasn't looking great. And I wanted to show off there are nice, beautiful sides of Abilene. And so it's really built up. I think we're around 22 or 23,000 on Facebook. And it's really been a good kind of groundswell of support for that. People want an outlet. To be honest, I think they get tired of complaining or hearing other people complaining.
Sure.
And they just want to see, hey, what's good that's happening in Abilene? And I think they've responded really well to this. I enjoy it. It's a fun hobby. I don't get paid for it. It's just a fun thing to give back.
So when you walk into places, are people thinking, maybe establishments, oh, I wonder if he's going to take a picture of my place and
I think I
put it on.
I think I get that sometimes. I don't know if they recognize me from Abilene It's Getting Better, City Council, or as an attorney. And so I never know what they're going to say to me, which hat they see me wearing. But it's been a very positive experience. And I go to these businesses and I always pay, this is not me getting free stuff.
Sure,
I want to support them with my money and blow them up on social media so they can get more customers so we can all do a little better.
Last question. How long have you been on council now?
2.5 years.
You planning on keep going?
It's people's will.
All right.
People's will.
All right. Blaise Regan, thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us on Big Country Homepage.
Well, thank you, Victor. The owner of the building where those 4 violent incidents have occurred in recent months is now speaking out. Now, as a result of the incidents and the following outcry, the owner of the event hall at the 6th Street Center, who wishes to remain unidentified, now saying that he is no longer renting to the entity who is holding these events and shares his plans for the future of this historic building.
I want it back to a family-oriented, like a event venue like it was before. It's a lot more work for us, for weddings and quinceañeras and all that stuff, but it's the only safe way.
The owner went on to say that he will no longer be allowing leases for events that stretch later than 2 a.m. and that he regrets that such incidents occurred in his establishment. Well, when we come back here on Big Country Politics, an update on a Southeast Abilene home, how it's going from an eyesore to a potential diamond. We're back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Welcome back. An unfinished Southeast Abilene home, once considered an eyesore by neighbors, now has a new investor who's hoping to turn the home into the diamond of the neighborhood. Now, work is being done once more at the La Hacienda House, also known as the $1 Million Home or the Big Green Monster. Construction crews getting to work in finishing the huge project. CWS Investments is the contracting company who has taken over on the build, and construction manager Jeffrey Scher says that their work is focusing on both interior and exterior redesigns, and that even in 1 month's time, this property will look completely different. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Big Country Politics. For the latest political headlines, always go to bigcountryhomepage.com. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place.